It's a great day. My name is Shay Brown, the happy entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the number one business development and revenue focused late night show in the country where we're on a mission. And our mission is to empower. Our mission is to inspire. And our mission is to provide you, the entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. And on this episode, we have the one and only Dr. David M. Walker, who's in the building to talk about the champion's mindset. But at the end of the day, you can unlock the formula to successful leadership. What's going on, Dr. Walker? How are you?
Shay, how you feeling? I'm just so grateful to be with you tonight. So I'm glad to be here.
Well, thanks for being here, man. Okay, the champion's mindset, we're going to get to that. But you have the subtitle here called Successful Leadership. First, leadership means different things to different people. So let's get on the same page. What is your definition of leadership? And then on top of that, what does successful leadership even look like these days?
You know, leadership for me is something that I have understood throughout my life. It's not something that you kind of automatically know what to do. It's really something that you have to discern. You know, when you look at the Bible, a lot of leaders were the firstborn son, but just because you're the firstborn doesn't necessarily mean that you're a born leader. You know, David was the eighth son. Joshua was the 11th child. Let's see who else. Jacob and Esau. Esau was the oldest, but Jacob was the second born, but he was the one who was a leader. So leadership is really something that you discern. It's something that you understand is what you are supposed to do. And it's really it's taking responsibility for leading others into a better way of living.
So for entrepreneurs today that are listening, that are watching, we're talking about the champion's mindset, the champion's mind, and then how you can use it to unlock the formula to successful leadership. Take a moment and give us your definition of champion. Right. And I like to do that because I want all to know first what he's thinking. And I know you're reading his bio. I get it. We'll get to who he is. And you want to know who is this person. But first, let's hear champion mind. Talk about that and why you decided to put that as the title for what we're going to chat about today.
Yeah. A champion's mind is really almost something like you have on the back of your wall. You got the Mamba mentality. And of course, we know that that's a Kobe Bryant terminology. But the champion's mind is understanding that your responsibility and your job is to excel to your best level of your ability. And it's not someone else's assignment. It is yours. It's the assignment that God has given for you to win. And you are supposed to go to the highest of your ability and your talents. And you're not to get into what other people are doing, because a true champion is maximizing who you are, not who someone else is. Maximizing your academic ability, your intellectual capabilities, any skill set that you may have. You are a champion when you raise your level of ability to its maximum level, and that is the only way to win.
So what is the challenge that folks have? If I can just ask, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer here, but okay, yeah. You're like, okay, Shay, you got to have the right mind. You got to be able to rise to a champion mind. Doesn't sound like a new idea. So no. What are 1, 2, or 3 of the struggles that someone has in order that prevents them, I'll say, from really stepping into their highest, best version of themselves with a champion's mind? Here's the question. What challenges do folks face even getting to that level?
Well, number one, people are challenged with identifying who they are. If you don't know who you are, if you don't have clarity about yourself, you will never excel. So that's one of the greatest obstacles, is clarity. Then secondly, confidence. people don't have confidence within themselves in order to excel and to achieve. They always, something's always getting in the way, of what they need to do. So I think I'll just probably use those two for now: clarity of who you are, confidence, in yourself. If you can get over those two major hurdles, clear on your goals, clear on your assignments, and confidence that you can do it, you'll win.
Well, you can't just leave us hanging. We're right on the edge. We're saying, wait a minute, Shay. Okay, he said, if I just get this clarity. And so number one, here's the first question, obviously, is what's one or two ideas you share with someone in order to try to determine what their purpose is, I'll say, or to get clarity, right? Because it might have been different for the person who just got married versus the person who just had a kid versus the person who's now an empty nester. So I know it's a loaded question, but you can frame it. And then secondly, what's one or two ideas you have for someone to be able to raise the confidence or the courage inside of them? Because, I'm fearful sometimes about technology when I got to do new things. Two-part question: clarity and courage. What's your suggestion for folks to be able to do it, man, and have it?
Yeah. Now ask me the question again, because I want to make sure that I'm going to answer.
The first question is on what's one or two ideas you share with someone to help them formulate clarity. Because someone might be listening saying, yeah, I'm not sure, how to get clarity, right? Because they're kind of confused right now. Again, it's a loaded question. People are different places, so you can frame it. That was part one, and then part two is what's one idea someone can use to summon the courage inside of them.
So here's how I talk about getting clarity. People are always trying to discover who they are.
Okay.
And I say you should never discover who you are, because when you're trying to discover who you are, that means you are looking for you. But the real answer is not to discover who you are, but to discern who you are. And I use that word, and it may be a religious word for some, but discern who you are. When you are discerning who you are, that means your gift, your talent, your ability comes looking for you. What does that mean, Dr. Walker? What it means is that you begin to assess what it is that you do best, because it speaks to you, it talks to you, because you start finding out that your skill set is designed to solve other people's problems. You realize that things you do and that you do well, other people have a hard time doing that. They struggle with it, and they're not able to do it as easily. Now, what you're doing could be something that's very difficult, but when it is your assignment, it is your skill set, it is your gift from God to do, then you're able to do it, and it seems easy to the rest of us. So I think clarity comes from discerning who you are, discerning your gifts, discerning your talents, discerning who you have been called to and who you have been assigned to. And if you can do these things, you get clarity. And then you spoke about having courage.
Yes.
It was Nelson Mandela who said that courage is not the absence of fear, but to triumph over it, which means that fear is always going to come. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about it later, because those are one of the steps that I talk about in having a champion's mind, and the success secrets is overcoming those fears and obstacles, because fear is always going to show up to try to keep you from attaining your goals. But if you can overcome it, push past it, get ahead of it, you'll win every time.
Before we get into the success formula, which we're going to get into, what I call it the success formula. Yeah, the formula for successful leadership. They're reading the bio. So they're looking below and they're Googling you, Dr. David M. Walker. They're doing that. But I would like for you to give us the backstory. Like, who is this Dr. M. Walker? We want to know. And then what was that pivotal moment, right? Where there was that defining moment. You said, you know what? I'm all in on this champion's mind. I'm all in on making sure people have a successful leadership tour. I'm all in on it. So two-part question. Who are you? That's a fair question, I think, at this point. And number two, what's the pivotal moment that led you to doing what you're doing now?
Well, my pivotal moment, well, let me just tell you who I am. I'm an old school player from Bedford-Stuyvesant in Brooklyn, New York, and some of you may know it as Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. And it's the home of Biggie and Jay-Z and Chris Rock, and we all come from that same community. And Bed-Stuy was a very difficult place to grow up in. Matter of fact, there was a tagline. It was called "Do or Die, Bed-Stuy," and what that meant was either you did it, you did well and you got out, or the community would get the best of you. And growing up, didn't have no real goals for life and things like that. Came through the community, but one day I got an opportunity to get into college, and I think my turnaround story really happened, and this is really my setback. And I think you may ask me a question about setbacks later, and I don't know whether I want to interject it now, but it's really where I understood what a leader was supposed to be. I was on my way to becoming a professional baseball player. I got a letter from the Los Angeles Dodgers inviting me to a tryout. And 3 weeks before the tryout, I was playing in a game. I was standing on second base. My teammate got a base hit to the outfield. As I'm dashing around third, coming home, trying to score a run for my team, it was a high throw, and the catcher jumped up to catch the ball. And as he was coming down to block the plate, I put my leg on the plate, and the catch came down, and he broke my leg. As you can imagine, 3 weeks outside of a tryout with the Los Angeles Dodgers, I call that my defining moment. It was Kevin Costner in the movie Tin Cup who said, when a defining moment comes, either you define the moment or the moment defines you. And so I decided to define that moment. I was a senior in college. When I broke my leg, that meant I wasn't going to make the tryout. My college career was over. And the decision that I made was obviously to go finish school, earn my degrees. And that led me more and more into leadership. I became a teacher, a school administrator. I'm a former pastor. And here's something that I tell as a fun fact. I spent 25 years officiating NCAA collegiate basketball. And so all of those things helped to hone my leadership skills. And all of those things took me into understanding what leadership is, because I've done it at every level of my life. I've learned how to lead. I've learned how to be responsible. I learned how to take charge. But I think it all took place that moment I broke my leg, because what am I going to do in this moment? And you know what I did? I got up off of that ground. I dusted myself off, and I said, I'm going to lead, because that's what this situation needs. It needs leadership.
I love it, man. I didn't know that story. So thanks so much for sharing that. When folks look at the champion's mind and they say,
Yeah.
Shay, he has a successful formula. I know they only have so much time on here, but we have folks that are watching now that are about 70% of the audience are dualpreneurs. So they may work a full-time job and they're a full-time entrepreneur, but in that full-time position, some of them are managers, some of them are executives, some of them work for nonprofits or government agencies. And the reason I say that, we have a number of entrepreneurs, right, that are leaders. So step back now if you can and go into your teaching moment, if I can say that, and share with us, what is this successful formula? What is the formula to successful leadership? And you listening, you watching at home, tune in, lean in, because you're a leader of one, I believe, to you're a leader of many anyway, as they say. So over to you, Dr. Walker. Talk to us, please.
Sure. Most people, when they talk about leadership, there are some lessons that everybody talks about. You go to some of the most well-known leadership speakers, and they're going to go through certain steps that they talk about that everyone knows, communication, teamwork. And but I wanted to write a book on leadership based on the biblical character David. When I was born, originally my mother wanted to name me Michael. I think she thought I was going to be an angel. And when she came to my grandmother to tell her, Ma, if I have a second son, I have an older brother, Robert, we're going to name him Michael. But my grandmother looked my mother in her eye and said, his name is David, because in the Bible, David was a king, David killed Goliath, and David was a great man, and my grandson will be a great man. And so as I studied the history of this biblical character, he helped me to formulate my leadership principles that I share. I share it in my book, I share it in my talks, and I'm only going to just share 3 with you today. And I hope that you can see them and utilize them to help you to become a greater leader. And here's the first one that I talk about. Number 1 is make room for your gift. Make room for your gift. What do you mean, Dr. Walker? You see, God has blessed all of us with gifts, talents, and abilities. And the gifts that God has given us, they are designed for us to win with. He didn't give us someone else's gift to win. He gave you your own gift to win. Now, sometimes when we look at a gift is sometimes your physical skill set, like a LeBron James or Michael Jordan. Those are physical skills and gift skills. But sometimes your skill that God gives you it can be ingenuity, creativity, entrepreneurship. Those are the things, or perception. You know, there are some people who can walk in a room and they notice that something is out of place. 50 people will walk in and never see it, but you walk in and you notice that something needs to be fixed here. That's a skill set and a gift from God for you. And why? And what God wants you to do is fix it. And so you have a gift, and your gift is really designed to solve other people's problems. You want to be wealthy? Solve other people's problems. And how do you solve it? You solve it with the gift and the ability that God has given to you. There's an old man by the name of Howard Thurman. Howard Thurman said, don't ask what the world needs. Ask yourself, what makes you come alive? And go do that. Because what the world needs is for more people to come alive. And when you come alive with your gift, that allows you to lead, because you know who you are. Now, let me give you the second thing. The second thing I want you to do to be a successful leader is to manage your fear. You know, most people don't anticipate, well, let me say it this way. They anticipate success, but they don't anticipate fear. They will put their faith out, but they don't expect, as soon as you launch out into whatever endeavor you are attempting to launch out in, fear is going to come. You see, I call faith and fear fraternal twins. They sometimes they look alike. They show up approximately at the same time. Faith is the older brother. It will always come first. But soon as you want to launch out on faith, here comes fear. And if you can accept that fear is a component of being successful, you will never succeed in life without fear showing up also. It will try its best to stop you. But if you can just get over your fear, like Nelson Mandela said, get past it, push past it, no matter what you want to do in life, you will succeed. So manage your fear. And here's the third and final one, Che. Listen to this very, very carefully. I want everyone to hear this. Maintain your advantage. Maintain your advantage. Somebody said, well, Dr. Walker, what do you mean maintain your advantage? Each of us have been given something in order for us to win win with. For example, whoever you are, whatever you have experienced in your life, good, bad, indifferent, if you look at certain things as a disadvantage, you will always lose. But if you look at the things that may have happened to you in this life as an advantage, you will win. Let me just give you a quick story, if I may, about David again. There's a story where David was fighting Goliath, where King Saul tried to tell David to put his armor on. But David tried on Saul's armor, and he realized that he had not proved and tested those things. So what David decided to do was to get rid of things that was not familiar to him, something that he had never experienced, and he went to war with what he knew best. So there have been things that have happened to you in life. Let's say you're a single mom. Somebody might say that's a disadvantage. I say that's your advantage. Some say you didn't have parents in your life. Your father was absent in your life. Some people are trying to convince you that you're at a disadvantage because you didn't have a father in your life. I'm telling you, you're at an advantage. Some people come from a minority community, poverty. People are trying to tell, well, what can I be when I come from where I come from? I'm here to tell you that no matter where you come from, that is your advantage. Your life experience is your advantage in life. And if you could understand it, if you can use your experiences that you have, because you cannot change what has happened to you, you can't throw it away, but you can use it for your advantage, and that will cause you to win. And that way you'll have what I call a champion's mind.
I love it, man. This is amazing. This is incredible. With the champion mindset, which is one of the things that you can certainly control, the champion's mind. With the
Yeah.
champion's mind, you can do whatever it is you want to do, and that's one of the clearest messages. And he's giving you this step-by-step formula to do it. Where does this passion come from, man? I mean, when you got to going and you got reared up, I was like, wait a minute, this guy has a heart to make sure that everyone on the planet knows that they have exactly what it takes to do whatever it is they want. Where did this come? Was this something you did as a kid as well, man, or where's this burning desire come from?
Well, I mentioned my grandmother, and her name is Martha Culbreth. I didn't mention her name earlier, but her name was Martha Culbreth. And as I told the story of her naming me David, she did that because she saw the champion in me. She saw a giant slayer in me. She saw an overcomer. She saw a winner. And then here's something else that she saw. She also saw my struggles. She saw that I was going to have self-esteem issues. I was going to have issues with having, the approval of other people, other people's opinion. I'm worrying about what other people think. I was going to be, of all of my brothers, I'm the smallest. Most people didn't even know about me and my family. She knew I was going to go through all of these mental challenges, and I was going to overcome, and I needed to overcome them. And I think that's another reason why she gave me that name. And so what I do, and here's where my passion comes from, because every time I look at the biblical character David, I see a winner. I see a champion. I see a giant slayer. And I say to myself, if he can be a giant slayer, so can I. If he can overcome obstacles, so can I. Life sometimes presents giants to us in one form or another. What's a giant? Your health could be a giant. Your finances could be a giant. Your relationships can be a giant, and they're obstacles, and you're having difficult times. But if you can pull the inner champion in you, you can pull the inner winner in you, you will win. And here's the thing. You don't have to go to anyone else to find that winner. That winner is in you. If you make up your mind that there's a champion in you, it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter what comes your way. You are a winner. You are a champion. And here's something that I always say. God wants you to win because second place is not an option.
I love it. Second place is not an option. Before I get to the next segment, which is today is our January 1st, what do you do for fun, man? Like when you're not out saving the world, when you're not helping people have the champion's mind, when you're not out, I didn't know the thing about you used to be an officiate for the NCAA. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool, actually. What do you do for fun?
Well, of course, I love sports. I go to the games, football games, basketball games, but I live here in Florida. So, I love getting out on the boat, going across the water, taking a cruise, or just, getting out on a boat out onto the fresh water of the Florida shores. I love fishing. And most of that came in my later life, especially after I got here, because you didn't do much fishing up in New York City, especially in
About to say that wasn't going on up there. You like the...
So these are kind of retirement enjoyments as I have gotten up into this age of 63, believe it or not.
Okay, looking good, bro. You're looking good.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. So these are some of the things that some of the things that I do, and I love reading. I love reading because education has always been my love for a long time. So give me a good book. Some people get books on their iPhones, from Amazon and whatever the thing is where they download books. But give
Audio,
me
yeah,
a
I'm an Audible guy.
yeah Audible, and I mean I have a few, but if you give me a book and some relaxation time, I learn better that way. So
Well, you have
yeah,
your
that's what
book
I
there
do.
in front of you, so I want to talk about that, and I also want you to share one of the books. You can't just leave us hanging. Can't say I love a good book. I love a good book. Actually, say I love a good book. You can hear it in his voice. So we're all wondering, like, okay, what's one of the books? And you've read so many, it's not even fair, probably. But you've read so well. Let me give you a two-part question. Number one, of
Okay.
all the books you read, what's one of the books that comes top of mind to you that has had an impact on you that you can share with us?
Well, the most recent book that I read, and now I guess I'll talk about that because I just read it. There's a book by Bishop T.D. Jakes called Disruptive Thinking.
Yeah,
And
good book.
that was a powerful book because he made it really simple and very clear that successful people are disruptive thinkers. Successful people don't go with the flow. They're willing to get out of line. They're willing to draw outside of the lines. They're willing to do things that other people don't do. Most of us, by nature, flow with the crowd because it's the right way to go. It's easy. There's no real strain and stress. But a disruptive thinker is someone who's willing to disrupt things in order to be successful. And there hasn't been a successful person yet that was not a disruptive thinker. So that was probably the most recent book that I read. But something that comes to mind, I read a book called The Great Migration by, I think her name was Isabella Wilkerson. One of the
Okay.
best books that I've ever read about the Great Migration from 1920 to 1970 of our people moving from the South and going north and west. And then I never realized how people ended up where they ended up. And basically, the foundational principle for where people ended up was number one, it was where the railroad was going. So if you lived in Mississippi and the railroad went from Mississippi to Chicago, that's where you ended up because that was where the railroad went. So, and then of course, once other family members got there first, here come the rest of the family members. So it really wasn't hard. And if you were in Louisiana or Texas, if the railroad went west, you ended up in California.
Yeah.
So that was powerful just to kind of understand that. And then that helped me to understand more about my family's personal migration because I found out that my ancestor came from the Cameroons in Africa, came from there to South Carolina, and then migrated straight up to Pennsylvania, Philadelphia on the Penn Station Railroad.
Nice, interesting fact. You've had so many mentors along this journey of life. It's just so many. But if you had to select maybe one mentor and a lesson you learned from that mentor, of all the ones you had, did you use the principles they shared with you, and now you're going to share one of the principles with us? And you, the audience, the benefit to you is you get the benefit from one of the mentors that you haven't met or maybe met virtually that's had a big impact on his life, and you get to take that same principle, you get to apply it in your own life. You get to have it for the rest of your life. So what's one of the principles you learned from any one of your mentors that we can benefit from?
Well, one just comes to mind. We both know. Let's say Dr. Will Moreland. He's a great mentor, and he has this terminology called the genius potential. And it's almost similar to the champion's mind, but really it's talking about understanding who you are and that in one way or another we're all a genius. And again, your genius is not your intellectualism. It's not like Aristotle and Socrates and all that things. Your genius is the gift that God has given to you that he has not given to anyone else. And what he suggests is that you take that gift and then position yourself to win, to be number one at whatever you want to do. And so he's been a great mentor. I have many others that I could name, some that I know personally, some that I don't know personally, but I've taken mentorship tips from them. I've been listening to Myron Golden lately. He's a powerful person. Many of your audience may know him, great man in
Yeah.
terms of leadership and mentoring. And then there's others, and there's so many. Dr. George Frazier, which I'm sure you know him.
Yeah.
He's an old school player from Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. A lot of people, I don't know if you knew that, but he's from
Yeah, I
Bed-Stuy
knew that.
too.
Yeah, him and his sister.
Yeah,
He told me he talked about the story
yeah,
all of the time, and totally incredible guy.
yeah. And he's just a treasure and a great mentor. And whenever him and I talk, I remind him of this legendary civil rights leader that most people don't know about. Of course, you know about Martin King and many of the civil rights leaders of the Jesse Jackson, civil rights leaders of the 50s and the 60s. But there's a gentleman from 1830, and his name happens to be David Walker. And he wrote this documentary called David Walker's Appeal. And it's a historical document. And if you want to see somebody from the 1830s who could live today and speak to the issues of civil rights, there's a gentleman by the name of David Walker, and he has a document called David Walker's Appeal. It's a subtitle to it, but I just remember David Walker's Appeals to the colored citizens of the world. I think that's the full name of it. So look it up. And he's been a great mentor, especially from a civil rights perspective.
How cool is that, man? How cool is that? We have a segment here, Dr. Walker, called Today is My January 1st. That's right. Today is my January 1st. And for those folks that tune in every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, your family, by the way, you can go ahead and say those words that we love to say every day, that today is my January 1st. And for all the new folks who are tuning in for the very, very first time, let me tell you what today is my January 1st represents. It's one of our personal mantras at the Happy Entrepreneur Show. It represents a fresh start. It represents a do-over. Today is my January 1st means your past, whatever the past is, it no longer equals the future. And that today really is Happy New Year to you. So Happy New Year to you, by the way. My question to Dr. David M. Walker on the other side. When you hear those words, today is my January 1st, what do you hear? And what was one of your January the 1st moments?
So when I hear January 1st, I know for many, it's the new year and it's a restart and a do-over. But also when I hear January 1st, I hear a repeat of what's already been. Every year we get a January 1st. No matter what you want to do, January 1st is coming next year and it's coming the year after that. And so what does that tell me? It tells me that I am who I've always been, but because it is January the 1st, it's time to take me to a new level and to a new season. I know people say we're going to do things over. And a lot of times when people do things over, they forget about themselves because they want to be somebody different. They want to be somebody else. But as I have been saying throughout this entire interview, is that you win best with being yourself. So although it is January 1st, it's telling me that I'm here again. It's just that it's time to take me to a new level, to a new season, make me better than what I've always been. I'm not the David Walker of 2022. I'm the David Walker of 2023. And when January 1st, 2024 comes, I will be that David Walker, but that David Walker will be better than this one. So January 1st says, I've seen it before. It's been here before. I know who I am. I've seen me before, but because it's a new year, I'm just going to take me to a new level. That's what I see in January the 1st.
I love it. Today is my January 1st. Take a moment, if you could, Dr. Walker, to come down the home stretch and share with folks the type of clients that your organization works with today. If you're taking on any clients, number one, and number two, how can they best connect with you? You have the book, but you also work
Yes.
with clients as well. And you also speak and you teach. So 2-part question. Number one, what type of clients do you work with? So folks that are listening can understand that. And number two, how can they best connect with you?
Well, currently, I'm working on, coaching. I'm working on coaching, but right now I am a motivational speaker. I speak at, colleges, universities, and schools, trying to inspire, obviously, young people. Sometimes I speak with athletes. I do speak with school administrators. Matter of fact, just yesterday I did a talk with a higher ed group here in Florida. So my job at this current rate is to try to lift people up in their leadership skills, because I believe that God has called all of us to lead in one way or another. It might be leading your family, it might be leading in your business, it might be leading on your job. But here's the number one person that God wants you to lead. He wants you to lead yourself, because if you don't lead yourself will lead you. And a lot of times self leads us in places where we should not go. So we have to take authority and control over ourselves and lead ourselves in the right place. So I try to speak to, I speak to motivate, to inspire, to lift up. And it doesn't matter if you have a school or a church, I'd be more than glad to come. You can reach me at info@drwalkerspeaks.com, info@drwalkerspeaks.com. That's my email address. Or you can go to my website, drwalkerspeaks.com. You'll see what I do. You see the places that I go. You'll see a few videos, a few talks. Just reach out to me. And you can also get my book there, because the book is called The Champion's Mind: How to Defeat Giants and Win. So Shay, I just want to say thank you for having me on the show. This is a great opportunity just to share with people on how they too can have a champion's mind.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show, man. We appreciate you. You certainly have a heart to give, a heart to serve. And for you, the viewers, thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can find us on YouTube at I am Che Brown. You can head on over there if you want, and you'll be able to see all of the episodes as well. I want you to know as we close out that you are awesome. And I love to share that because it's so true. I love to say it. And you are amazing. And that in fact, today is your January 1st. And as long as you have oxygen, that means you're breathing right now and you're alive and you're moving around, then I know with 100% certainty that your best is still yet to come. Your best is yet to come. Your best is yet to come. With that being said, my name is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur. Make it a great day, everyone. And I promise you from the bottom of my heart, we'll make some good things happen. We connect again next time. Remember this: time is long. Life, on the other hand, is very, very short. So you got to live in that moment and you got to make it count. God bless me. Wish you success. We out. Peace. Thanks a lot, David. Talk to you later, Dr. Walker. Bye-bye.
Take care, sir.